Hello, dear one. Welcome to Love M podcast. My name is Marta, and I am a continuous student of life. In my nearly 4 decades of life, I wore a few hats, from a fashion model to a yoga teacher, nutrition coach, transformational game guide, and now a podcaster. But my true passion lies in the evolution of the human soul. On this podcast, I sit down with beautiful human beings from all walks of life to witness real-life testimonies of love, truth, and faith. My hope is that both you and I can learn and evolve from it. Now let's get to it. Enjoy. Everybody, this is Nic. Nic is a men's coach. He's doing also breath work, spirit medicine work, and he is a teacher of intimacy. But this isn't who Nic always was. So Nic, can you please tell us the beginning of the story, how it all started for you?
Yeah, so up until 2015, I was living as a architect. I was married. I was addicted to porn. I was drinking a lot. I was taking a lot of drugs and numbing myself from feeling the pain of the life that I'd created for myself. I never had the tools or the direction on how to create a magical, powerful life. So I followed the kind of societal framework that says leave school, go study, get a job, get married, and all of those things, which I at some point realized was not for me. And it wasn't until I was deep in my own pain and dissatisfaction. My wife had an affair, and that was the catalyst for me to actually do something about it. So I spent 3.5 years in the beginning traveling and really searching for ways that I could heal everything that was painful in my life. So it began with Tantra and Neo Tantra because I was addicted to porn. I had premature ejaculation, erectile dysfunction. It was this huge mess that was part of the catalyst for my marriage breakdown also. So I got into Tantra and these things and healed that, and then discovered breath work and plant medicine, and lived in jungles and kind of ashrams and all of these things over the course of about 3.5 years, just consistently working on myself and breaking down barriers and trying to feel parts of me that I'd been numbing for so long. And then at some point I realized that I was not the only person that was suffering. And I came across men's work, and then suddenly a whole bunch of men started to contact me and ask me for guidance and advice. And I'd started a men's circle, but I was also still working as an architect. And then COVID happened, and I lost my job as an architect, and it kind of forced me to do what I was destined to do, which was the men's work and the intimacy stuff. And this was 3 or 4 years ago now, where this became a full-time gig. And it's just getting bigger and better, and everything that I do with my life, every retreat, every ceremony, is in benefit to everybody else, because my evolution, my healing, my transformation directly affects my clients.
That's amazing and very inspiring to watch, because I know you for a couple of years now, and I've sort of met you when you were in the beginning of this journey, and I've seen this journey unfold for you, and I'm seeing where you are arriving. So that's amazing. But I wonder, what was the catalyst? Was it when you got divorced? Was that the catalyst? that was that sort of last drop for you to know that, okay, something needs to be changed. I can't do this anymore. This is not working.
No, it was probably the affair. Um, and then there was a period of time where I didn't really know what to do. And I was working in a career that I hated, and I had no one to speak to. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. Um, and there was a moment when my sister, who's a psychologist, told me to just help someone. And I responded with how, like I can't help myself. And she said, just trust me, just go and help someone. So I ended up finding someone who was in a far worse position than I was, and it gave me some perspective. And I took this, at some point I'd contemplated suicide. I was just like, my life is like rock bottom is so low. I didn't know where to go. And then it was like, well, actually, I have the resources and the desire to travel and to experience all of these things that I haven't been able to. So why don't I do that first? And then we speak of self-love and filling our cup and all of these things, and this is where the real transformation begins. And then that's what happened. It was 3.5 years of consistently doing things that I loved, that would benefit me, that would kind of increase my frequency, and it opened up a world which I had never dreamed possible.
I hear that when you were going into it, you didn't really had any idea of where you're headed. You were just sort of going into the open without any aim for anything, and then you have arrived somewhere. I I can relate a little bit. I know when I turned 30 7 years ago, I was at the low point, like you said, one of them, right? There's not just one, but one of them. And I was so miserable as well, and I just knew that my life wasn't working anymore like that, and I just didn't want to live like that anymore. And I knew that I had to go on this self-love, self-discovery journey. But I often, looking back at it now, I laugh because I think I romanticized it a lot back then, because I thought, oh yes, now I'm gonna go into this journey, and life's gonna be so beautiful. And it was 7 years of difficult transformation, a lot of space of the unknown, discomfort, and just a lot of falling apart. And I wonder, it was really difficult for me because I felt unsafe for many years, very fearful, very lost, very confused. And I wonder what it was like for you to go through that time, and what kept you going through that time.
Well, there's a line by Rumi that he says, when you walk in the way appears. And I didn't have any idea of where I was going as far as, being a men's coach. I give retreats and workshops around the world on intimacy, and I have a very, very beautiful life. And 8 years ago, this was not even on the radar. I was an architect. I wanted to draw. And I met a man by the name of Dr. Bill in Guatemala, and he was this 60-plus-year-old medical doctor from Canada whose grandfather was a shaman. And I walked in to the room of this guy, and he looked at me and he said, "You have a 7-foot guardian angel, Raziel, standing next to you, and it's the same guardian angel that has been with every great shaman I've ever spoken to. You've just come out of a relationship where you got very hurt. Don't blame your father, you chose him. In 5.5 years, you'll be healing people 12 hours a day." and then many, many other things. And I just looked at this man like, uh, first of all, how did you know I came out of a relationship and I'm not healing anybody? I want to be an artist. And he looked at me and said, even if you do nothing, this will happen. And from that moment on, things that he said started to come true, and he planted certain seeds where I started to follow the breadcrumbs, basically. And one of the ways that the universe works is when you are able to listen, it gives you very obvious guides, very obvious breadcrumbs, very obvious hints that this is the direction or this is not the direction. And for most of my life, I was swimming against the current, wondering why life wasn't working the way that I wanted it to work and the way that I thought it should work, rather than allowing life to show me the way. Mm-hmm. So I followed this direction. I walked this path for as long as I needed, not really knowing where to go other than where to next, simply asking the question. So there'd be times where I'd be in South America or Central America or India or Asia, and it's just like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I don't know. I had a friend say to me, yeah, but what are you going to do in 5 years? And I was like, dude, I don't even know what I'm going to do in 5 weeks. Like, I'm just not living in that realm. So it's a matter of learning how to listen, and the universe speaks. And when you know how to hear, you know how to follow the breadcrumbs, and suddenly it guides you in a way that opens you up into the most beautiful experiences. And the unknown is actually a very magical place. And it's very scary for many people, but it's actually one of the most beautiful things that exists, because we are limited to our very small idea of what we believe is possible. And we try and control our life so it fits within this sphere of what we believe is possible. But outside of that sphere, in the unknown, there are things which you have never ever dreamed of. And perhaps that is what the universe is trying to give you, but you're stuck trying to swim against the current, trying to force life into your very limited sphere, where the whole time the universe is like, no, just let go, because what I have for you is so far better than you've ever dreamed of.
Yes to that. And this made me think, first of all, I love it. I might think of it in other words, because you say universe. I think of it in terms of intuition, me, my higher self speaking to me. And I think that this world conditions us to listen to somebody else so much and to not listen to what you want, that personally for me, I been so conditioned to listen to everybody else that up until very recently, and I'm 37 today, up until very recently, I couldn't trust myself. I couldn't make decisions. I went to everybody else for advice, and I just could never trust this voice. And I heard somewhere, when you don't listen to that voice, just like with anything, right? When you don't use it, you lose it. When you don't listen to that voice, it becomes so quiet. The conditioning, the world's voice becomes so loud. This one's so quiet, and you don't trust this one. Yet this one is the only one that can get you out beyond the imaginable. I remember that because I don't think I know it was you. When I met you, you were a little bit ahead of me, and I was so lost. And you then told me about this book by Michael Singer, The Surrender Experiment. And it had such a powerful impact on me. The Surrender Experiment. From that moment on, when I read it, first of all, when I read it, it was like, I just wanted to swallow this book. That it was so good. And went straight into my heart. And this is the book about what you just said. And I remember Michael saying something along the lines that I could have never imagined, thought something like this, planned something like this for myself. None of this, what I went through in my life, thanks to the surrender experiment, was even in my mind. I was interested in totally different things, just like you're saying. And that's why I love you for offering that gift for me. Since then, Michael Singer's been my teacher, and I'm still listening to him. I love them, and I recommend to everyone because he's speaking to you in such a simplistic, simple language that is easy to understand, giving simple guidance for somebody who's in this space of uncertainty. So thank you for this, Nic. And the next question I want to ask you is about your learnings. What would you say one or two main things that you learned, the pillars of your new self, of your new life that you learned throughout your transformation?
So there is this kind of, well, the first one, it came when I was sitting in the jungle and I had these two, I had reached a crossroads in life, and to go right meant that I would leave my marriage and I would give up architecture and I would start everything new. I was 33 at the time, which scared the absolute shit out of me. Or I go back to my marriage and go back to my architecture career and continue living this very fun yet very unfulfilling life. And somebody was walking by and I said, "Hey, how do you tell the difference between your head and your heart?" Because I'd always heard that you should follow your heart. I just never knew what that meant or how to do it. And she said, "You do the thing that scares you the most." And in that moment, I just remember starting to cry because I knew what that meant. And I wasn't ready to fully give up everything. It was too overwhelming to do everything from scratch. So I made a deal with the universe and said, all right, if it's not meant to be, I'm going to go back and try and make the marriage work. And if it's not meant to be, give me a very clear sign and I'll listen. And I went back home and I received a very clear sign and realized that I needed to do the thing that I was afraid of the most. And there was probably one of the most powerful lessons I've ever received, that our resistance to anything is the doorway to the next level of life. And that fear is our compass, or fear is my compass. What is the thing that scares me? What is the thing that I don't want to do? What is the thing that I'm resistant towards? And then do it. Because we've become so comfortable with life. And we have the air conditioning on at 24.2 degrees and the TV turns on at a certain time and their water temperature is the same. Like everything is just set for our comfort. And we become complacent and mediocre and lazy and unfulfilled. Mm-hmm. Alternatively, we can lean into the resistance and step just a little bit beyond our comfort zone and realize that actually we're still okay and we're not going to die. And then we do it a little bit more and then suddenly we've done something we've never done before and we've grown because of it. And the more we do this, the more we expand, the more we heal and transform, the more we evolve.
How was that for you? I know for myself, I never used to know how to trust myself and therefore did not believe that I can do anything. It was very scary for me. I'm obviously doing this now, but
I wonder how it was for you, and how did you deal with that? Are you somebody who's just, okay, I'm gonna do the hardest thing, whatever it is, or are you somebody who is making small steps and testing and trying? How was that for you going into your fears?
I mean, in the beginning, it was challenging, but it became so obviously the right thing to do over and over again. The rewards just kept coming. And at some point, it's like, well, okay, there is no other way. So now
Mhm.
it's, oof, that thing really? Fuck. All right, let's do it. And then
Mm,
you do
mm,
it. And as Michael Singer speaks to, because I think a little bit of it is surrendering to life
mhm,
and what life wants from us. So in the book, he uses this really beautiful metaphor that humans are as much a part of nature as the wind and the trees and the planets, and nature is the most beautiful thing in existence. So is it not too far-fetched? And nature is without the will of human. So is it not too far-fetched to take our will out of it, understanding that we are innately nature? And I think the fear is our mind that comes in and says, no, no, I don't feel safe, or no, no, that's going to fail, or no, no, I'm going to get rejected, or all of these little fears that come through when the mind speaks up. Yet the universe is actually pulling us forward. It's like, hey, come in this direction. And say, no, 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 because I will lose something, or I will enter the fear. And when we allow ourselves to go beyond the mind and to just allow ourselves to be pulled in the direction that the universe is calling for, this is where we start to receive the benefits of just the most magical experience. And it's always that which lies outside of what we know.
mhm. That's beautiful. What did you learn about yourself on this journey?
I created the life that I hated, and I had the power to do that. So I also have the power to create the life that I dream of. And when we take 100% responsibility for ourselves and everything that we've created, we empower ourselves to do something different. And so many people play this victim role. But my mum dropped me when I was a child, or I was abused, or I was cheated on, or I was blah 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 blah. All the reasons why we're just victims. And it's like, okay, cool, but then what? For how long do you need to play the victim before you take responsibility for your own life? Because everybody's a victim in some way, and there's always somebody. The first silent retreat I did, I was deep in my head about poor me, my wife cheated on me, and some guy gets up at the end and he speaks about how he was raised in Kashmir, and when he was a child, his entire family was raped and murdered in front of him. And I was like, whoa, whoa, okay, perspective shift. Because this guy was not playing the victim. This guy was out crushing life. And I realized that it is so easy to play the victim because we want somebody to come in and save us. And when we play this poor me mentality, or maybe the knight in shining armor will ride in and pick us up and dust us off and take us away, and we'll live happily ever after. And it's a fairy tale. The moment we begin to take responsibility for ourselves, the moment we empower ourselves to create the life of our dreams.
Yeah, that's true. I just want to add a little something. I guess that, yes, it's true that living from the place of victimhood, you will never build a life of real purpose, fulfillment, and mission and happiness. But I feel like in our world, victimhood is sort of looked down upon, which I just kind of want to say something about that. I want to admit that when we do that, we don't know that we do that. We taught to do that. We learned from everybody else to do that. And then we sort of go on doing that because this is what we know, right? But once you learn that when I do that, when everybody else and everything else, sort of life is responsible for your misery, then you are powerless. There's nothing you can do about it. But if I created it, that I am also the one who can create something else other than this. And that's where, for me, I realized, oh, okay, it's okay that I have been living as a victim in a victim mentality for my entire life. That's okay. I didn't know better. But now, this life that I have right now, it's hurting me more than it comforts me. Because in the victimhood, we find comfort, right? There's a comfort zone there. This is what we know. We like what we know. We don't like what we don't know. So I was always my worst critic. And I was talking to myself very harshly. Oh, you're a victim. You're this, you're that. No wonder I spent so long learning to love myself. Because how can you when you talk to yourself like that? So I'm very mindful right now about how I actually speak about things, and even talking about victimhood. I kind of just want to say that it's okay when you don't know anything better. It is when you know something better, then you can make choice, right? So, but it's definitely from the place of taking responsibility, realizing, oh, I have created that. My every choice created my reality. My thoughts created my actions, created my destiny, my life. So if I choose differently, if I think differently, I choose differently, and I take responsibility, I do this. If I have done this, I can do something else now. Now I am powerful. So I love that. Self-love was the biggest teaching for me on my journey. And I want to ask you about your self-love experience, because I'm sure you talk about it as well. And maybe you can give us some perspective.
I mean, based on everything you just said, I was very much in this victim mentality, and my vibrational frequency was very low. I was living with guilt and with shame and with just this poor me mentality, and I was, I think Einstein says, match yourself with the frequency of what you want, and you can't help but get it. It's physics.
Mhm.
And I was in a very low place because my life was filled with things that I didn't enjoy. And because of that, I was in this perpetual cycle of pain, creating more pain. And when I went traveling, I my original intention was to travel for 5 weeks and to just go to a place that I'd never been, and maybe I'd go there for a couple of days, and then I'd go to the next place. And when I was planning, I was like, hang on, but why would I then come back after 5 weeks and go back to this life that I really don't like? Why don't I just stay for a bit longer? And I'd planned to go to this first place for a couple of days, and then I ended up staying there for a couple of months, and everything changed because my only rule when I was traveling, and people often ask me, but what's your plan? It's like, well, I don't have one. Um, well, you have to have a plan. It's like, no, I don't. You have to have a plan. Doesn't mean everybody else does, just to
Mm.
satisfy your anxiety. I don't have a plan. I don't need one. My only plan was that every day I'd do three things that I loved, which at the time were meditation, yoga, and drawing.
Mhm.
And every day I'd do those three things. And by doing three things that I loved every day, I started to love myself. It's a form of self-love. So suddenly my frequency shifted because I started to love myself. And then suddenly I would see, hear, realize all of these synchronicities that were happening because I was loving myself. And it was like, oh, there's a very obvious one. I'll follow that. And then I would follow that one. And it's like, oh, well, that's amazing. And then there's another one. So I'll go, and as I said before, following these breadcrumbs. The more we love ourselves, the more aligned we become with our higher self, the more in tune with the universe we are, the easier it is to follow these breadcrumbs, to hear the breadcrumbs and then to follow them. And it is the recipe for a very magical life. But
It
it
is.
begins with the awareness of where you're at. And if you don't like your life, change it. And if you can't change it completely because you have too many responsibilities, create 30 minutes out of your day to start doing something that will shift your frequency. Perhaps it's meditation, perhaps it's breathwork, perhaps that's cooking, perhaps that's walking in nature.
Dancing,
But every
drawing,
day,
anything.
whatever, every day, just bring something into your life that you love. And
Mhm.
even if it's 10, 20 minutes, and then gradually increase it. Because otherwise you're never going to get out of the rut that you're in.
Mhm. Basically, it's about seeing you and doing something for yourself that fills your cup,
Hmm.
your inner cup, your heart. It's like that attention that we love from our beloved partner, right? Give it to yourself. Become your own partner. We heard it so many times,
Hmm.
right? It's beautiful. Yes. Yes. Nick, I want to go back to where your sister told you to help somebody. Can you please expand on that when your sister told you to go help someone and you did, right? And how did that help you? Can you expand on that, please?
I managed to find a woman that was needing a volunteer to help her with her autistic son, who was 12 years old and needed 24-hour care. And her husband had left them, and she lived in a country that she was from Spain, and this was in Germany. Her mother wouldn't help, so she was basically left on her own to take care of a kid who needed really close attention 24 hours a day. And she put on Craigslist. She was asking for volunteers. And I went in my victim state of poor me and life sucks. And I sat with this woman and realized, holy shit, I really don't have it so bad. Um, and wow, some people are just in a really, really tough situation. And by helping other people, I started to realize that actually life was all right. Yes, this thing had happened. Yes, it sucked. But yes, I also helped create it. Um, and it's a similar thing. We often just need to step back and get a broader perspective to change the story that we're telling ourselves. And I did that multiple times over and over to really learn how to reframe. I heard somewhere a while ago about our capacity to change the past, and this seemingly contradictory belief or idea that we can change the past. And so this thing happened to me. My wife had an affair. It was the worst thing that ever happened. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I'm sick of talking about it on this podcast. But a year and a half into it, I went to tell the same story again about how this guy ruined my life. And I stopped and I was like, hang on a second. My life is filled, I'm in the middle of Central America, living on the side of a volcano with incredible people, deep in nature, having this epic life. And I'm about to tell the story that this guy ruined my life. I'm like, how the fuck is that accurate? And from that moment on, I started to realize that this guy changed my life. This guy was a blessing in my life. This guy actually helped. Without him, I wouldn't have left my marriage. It was a thing that I needed. And, you know, since then we've had lunch and dinner a bunch of times and we're good friends, and it's we have a very beautiful relationship. And I was able to change the past. In the moment that it happened, I couldn't see it. But with a simple shift in perspective that started from me helping someone else, a very simple shift in perspective, I was able to change the past. And you know, it's something that is very easy to do once you look back on things at moments in time, and instead of think, why did that happen to me? Why did that happen for me?
Mm-hmm. Change the way you look at things.
And the way you look at changes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, beautiful. I was listening to some podcasts, I guess, and there was this guy who offered an exercise. And the exercise was to write your entire detailed, well, as detailed as you can, life story in a notebook. And the point of it, he said, when you do that, you realize this is everything that made you into who you are today. When you write down your entire life story, you realize that this is your unique self. This is this is what made you into who you are today. And there's only one of you. I never tried to do that because it sounds like a lot, but I do. But I do, and I also lack memories from childhood. I have the snippets of my childhood memories, and usually I don't like to remember them. But it sounds like
probably a good reason to do it.
I might do it now. Then, now that I remember about it, and
the resistance is the doorway to the next phase of life.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, the self-love thing. Wanna expand on that one. How do we do that? Apart from doing the things we love, what are the elements? What are the important aspects of loving yourself? Where is intimacy in this whole self-love story? Where is authenticity in this whole self-love journey?
Okay, so a very common trait in a lot of people is this idea of people pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
We want everybody to like us. We want to avoid conflict because we want everybody to like who we are. And we want to make sure everybody's okay, because then they'll like us. And it stems from a fear of rejection, because if you're a child and you get rejected by your parents, you're out on the street, you die. So there's a deeply rooted fear in almost everybody of rejection. But what this does is creates a society full of inauthenticity, because I'm going to wear a mask of the person that I think you want me to be, which is going to be different to the mask I'm going to put on with this other person because I think they want me to be a different version of me. So suddenly we're wearing all of these different masks, wanting people to like a version of us that isn't authentically us, which makes absolutely fucking no sense at all. So when COVID came out, I was quite quiet on Instagram regarding vaccines and all of these things. And I didn't want to put anything out. I didn't want to speak my truth because I was afraid that people might not follow me anymore and people might get upset. And then I realized that actually I was being incredibly inauthentic and not speaking my truth. And why would I want people to follow a version of me that is not truly me? So I started to post my truth and people started to get upset and people
How
started
did that
to unfollow.
feel?
I was like, well, actually, why? I lost a whole bunch of friends, like friends that I had for years. I'm like, but why would I be friends with somebody that cannot have a conversation about this?
That you
It just
can't be yourself
automatically
with them.
shuns. Yeah. Like I need to pretend to be someone else just so I can be friends with you. Fuck that. So I lost a whole lot of friends and followers, and shortly after, by doing that, I created the space, but shortly after, it all just skyrocketed. Because people are like, holy shit, man, thank you for speaking the truth. Thank you for your authenticity. Thank you for not just being another one of these fucking puppets that does what everybody else thinks, does what they think everybody else wants from them. And it's a really beautiful version of self-love, because without authenticity, then you don't believe the version of you is worth loving. And if you can't love the version of yourself enough to share it with people, why would anybody else love you?
I just want to say the truth of yourself. That's who you really are. And if you're scared to lose people who don't love who you really are and you want to be who you really are, why would you need those people? Because if you continue with them, then you're doomed to continue with wearing the mask with them, with playing a role, not being able to be yourself. I love what Dr. Mate teaches. His teaching is about authenticity, attachment versus authenticity, conflict. What you said, that as children, we always choose attachment because this is our survival mechanism. That when a child comes into the world, the basic survival mechanism for a child is attachment. I have to be attached to somebody, and I need somebody to be attached to me so I can survive. But that's the first one. Then we have the second one, because we have two survival mechanisms. And the other one is authenticity. I need to be fully connected to who I am, to my instincts, to my gut feelings, to my intuition, to my emotions, to my truth. So I can, well, not now, but back in the days, survive in the wilderness hunting for a tiger, that I can sense that the danger is around, right? Because if I'm not connected to my truth, I don't know what's going on, and I'll be eaten by a tiger in the woods, right? And so authenticity is a survival mechanism of an adult.
Interesting.
And then at some point, we come in with an attachment mechanism, and then as adolescence comes in, and then we transition into adulthood, maturity. Adulthood doesn't always mean maturity, but maturity, being mature, is being authentic, being connected to who you are, which means being powerful, sensing life, being connected to life, being responsible, and everything that has to do with authenticity, right? But because in this world that we weren't designed for, we were born many years ago, thousands, millions of years ago in the wilderness. But now we live in here in the four walls, like you said, with aircon, and we don't have to care about anything. Everything is taken care of, very comfortable. But the instants are the instants. So now the nature of our stress is different. Oh, where to get a job, where to get money, how do I get life where I make $100 million a year and I have a Lamborghini and a luxury villa somewhere. These are our problems. These are our problems. We believe that this is the life we must have in order to be successful so we can be accepted. And then we stress ourselves out so much. Then we, like you said, follow the strategy, get married, have children, blah, 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 blah. And without resolving inner problems, not knowing, not being connected to ourselves, we bring another life into the world, this world. And then we're still stressed. But the child, hey, needs us to be attached to them. So we care for them properly, which means we give them our love, attention, proper care, and all that they need for the first several years of life until first 3 years are crucial, right? But we are stressed with all this. You know, I need a luxury villa. I need to, I don't have it. I'm very stressed. I don't have time for my kid. I'm very angry that my life's people are not liking me on Instagram. I don't know, whatever, the ridiculousness of this world, you know? But the kid comes here and the kid, he or she, whatever, the child needs love. And I'm way too stressed. I don't even know what it means to love because nobody ever taught me to love myself. All I know is that I need to make my life a certain way to make everybody else love me, but nobody else told me to love myself or taught me to love myself. And so now I brought a child in the world and I'm way too stressed and I'm abandoning this child. I'm unable to meet this child's needs. I'm unable to attach to this child in the way that is safe and fulfilling for this child, that creates a safe foundation for the child, for the child's healthy development. Because that's when it happens, our biggest traumas. Our mom or our dad was constantly at work or stressed, and the child takes everything personally. Oh, mom and dad are fighting. Must be because of me. I'm bad. Oh, this happens. Must be because of me. That happens. Must be because of me. And so we end up stuck in the first childhood survival mechanism. And this fear of rejection travels with us until we resolve it, sometimes forever, if we never deal with it. And sometimes we never get to transition into our adulthood or the second survival mechanism, which is being authentic, being here in the world exactly who I came here to be. Instead, I'm stuck there trying to make everybody love me because I'm scared to be rejected. Because I'm still that little child that is scared, that is helpless. Isn't that crazy? That's crazy. It is indeed. And that's why authenticity is now almost my new purpose. Authenticity and self-love. Those two travel together. And I realized how many people are stuck in the childhood survival mechanism, unable to mature, unable to transition into adult life, unable to fully experience life. That's crazy. So that's why I'm here. And that's why I hope we're both here, because I know you also talk a lot about on that. And I really appreciate the work you're doing.
Thank you.
And Nic, thank you for being here. Before we go, I would love to ask you, do you have a message for somebody who is in the midst of their metamorphosis right now? Somebody who's not there, but not yet anywhere else, who's feeling lost, confused, don't have a direction. Do you have a message for them?
Be like the seasons. Winter doesn't rush to become summer, and spring doesn't rush to become autumn. Everything grows in the time that it is meant to, and you are never for 1 second not exactly where you were meant to be.
I love it. One last one though. If you were to go back to the beginning of your journey, what would you have done differently, if anything?
Got a coach, joined a men's group. Because there are people that have done all of this before. And without proper guidance, it takes far longer than it needs to.
Yes, get a mentor, get a coach, get a friend, get somebody who's there where you want to go, and let them guide you. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Nic. Thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for your time and for your presence. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Love M Podcast. If you found it valuable, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more content on personal well-being. Stay blessed. I love you.